Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Spotlight Conversation. My name is Tsion Tulu. My pronouns are she, her, her. I'm a student coordinator at the CJL at Hamline University. And this is our third CJL Spotlight Conversation around the topics of the elections, health, justice, and law. And for this Spotlight, we have Yasmin Hirsi, a policy fellow at MNYC, Minnesota Collective, and a close friend of mine. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Yasmin Hirsi, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I am currently studying political science and global studies, and like Tsion said, I am working with Minnesota Youth Collective as a policy fellow this semester.
So I wanted you to join me specifically because we have a lot of conversations like similar to the ones that were had at the previous Spotlight conversations around elections, health, justice, everything. So, and I also know that we have a lot of conversations around your work at MNYC, and I've always admired your passion and dedication to that work in your community. So we can start off just by talking a little bit more about what you do and what you do in the community, MNYC or otherwise.
Yeah. So for me, a lot of the work that I've been doing has been connected to either like a nonprofit organization or to the government for the most part. And a lot of my passions kind of stem from my identities of being a Black woman in America, a Muslim woman in America, and holding all these identities kind of shaped the different things that I'm involved in. Early on, like in high school, a lot of my work and capacity was just to be able to protest, right? As a high schooler, I didn't really see myself as having more power or like another capacity. It was mostly through protesting. And then as the years I've developed, I've kind of sat at work that was meaningful and that like kind of spoke to the issues that I cared about and making impactful changes within the framework of like policy and government. So currently with Minnesota Youth Collective, I kind of signed on to this fellowship because it's focused on reaching out to young people and empowering young people to take back some sort of like control over policy and like their involvement with electoral voting and like democracy. And that to me is really important work. And yeah, that's kind of like why I signed up to be a fellow at Minnesota Youth Collective.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I think our identity and our experiences tie a lot into the work that we go through. And I'm glad that you feel that you are fulfilling that at MNYC. Is there like any work that you're specifically doing now that you feel needs to be amplified or fulfills that for you?
Yeah, so just to kind of give a little bit more background of Minnesota Youth Collective, we try to focus on year-round engagement, civic engagement with young people, and getting them to register to vote and talk about issues that impact their community and themselves personally. And so right now, as a track, the policy track is focusing on creating a space and series of events to talk about how housing is kind of impacting different people in the Twin Cities. And so having different speakers to come and talk about what young people can do to engage in this effort to support our unhoused community and the efforts of different coalitions and organizations that are trying to battle this and fill in the gaps in which policy has failed many people and many communities. And so we're just kind of we're in the planning stages right now, so we haven't had anything solidified yet, but that's going to be the focus of our group, is to talk about the unhoused population and how to support them and giving more platform and an awareness to different efforts that are happening in the Twin Cities to support young people and people who are facing issues of homelessness.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the most prominent issues that are happening within the Twin Cities, especially with even before the pandemic, but now with the pandemic, a lot of people have lost their housing, and that can include like students, young people as well. So I'm glad that you guys are having those people at the table and actively working towards this issue as well, instead of just a top-down approach. That seems very amazing to me. So
Yes.
yeah. Sorry. So the themes of CJL this year is around health, justice, and law. Is there any way that you can see your work connecting to those themes, or through your work with advocacy, or even with the houseless, or the work that you're doing right now?
I think that going beyond just looking at the logistics of policy, we're trying to build community, right, with this work. I think that we get so caught up in just the logistics of policy and the way in which we're so I don't know how to explain this, but I think sometimes policy fails to accurately represent people and community, right? And there's a lot of issues, of course, that stem from the lack of implementing the right kind of policy to serve the community. And so with our work, we're just trying to go beyond that barrier that exists within policy by engaging with community, by working with community, and being for the community. And I think that's an important aspect that's kind of forgotten about in the terms of talking about politics and anything that's policy related. And so, yeah, we're just kind of trying to go beyond just the logistical part and connecting with community, and how can we uplift the efforts and the grassroots movements that are existing already, that are filling in those gaps that are left by policy or created by policy. And a lot of the issues that we try to address and talk about as a group and with the community does relate to health, you know what I mean? And I think with the unhousing community specifically, there's a lot of people who are struggling, and we are Minnesotans and we understand the harsh realities of winter in this space. And if we're not giving people the right equipment and the right space and a place to live, how are they going to survive this? You know what I mean? So it does relate to health. It does relate to justice. It does relate to law, because all of it is interconnected. All of it impacts communities that are disenfranchised and that are underserved in great manners. But policy kind of fails to capture that correctly and accurately and address it in a manner that's restorative. And we're just trying to, from a young people's perspective, engage with that and work with that and support our community in the meantime and uplift our community, while also pushing back against the system that's failing us at the same time.
Yeah, I think what you just said about humanizing the people that you serve is one of the most oversighted things that happen, especially within either nonprofit work or otherwise. I think the community that you serve should always come first, and their perspectives and their needs before anything else. And I think especially the population you're serving right now, that's one of the things that should be prioritized. So I'm really happy that you brought that up.
Yeah, and a thing that I would like to also mention is just that we have this conversation within our group and within our organization to want to no longer exist as nonprofits. We want to completely abolish the nonprofit industrial complex, because we don't want people to continue to suffer and for organizations to continue to exist to try and alleviate that suffering. We want to be able to provide people with the needs that they require so that they can be successful and have some self-determination. I don't think people understand nonprofits should not exist to begin with, and we try to actively work towards not existing. You know what I mean? Our work doesn't just stop to support people and do little work that's not long-term. We want to be long-term focused and completely not exist in the future, hopefully.
Yes, that's the whole point of the nonprofit, is to bridge a gap that was made by policy. And once that gap is bridged, once that health disparity or anything else is addressed, they're supposed to just fall to the ranks and then focus on another issue. So I definitely, nonprofits aren't something that are supposed to just sustain, but they're supposed to create sustainable solutions and then
Right.
go forward.
Right.
Yeah. So one thing that you mentioned is that you do a lot of work with the elections and civic engagement as well, especially with youth. And one question that I wanted to pose was, what does the upcoming election mean to you? Now, that's a really big general question, but and it can go down any route.
Yeah. So this one is there's like a lot of internal battle and struggle with this topic, because there is a lot of issues regarding how to approach this, right? As somebody who believes in abolition work, it's hard to continuously depend on a system that's like failed so many people. And I don't personally believe in telling or demonizing people who don't want to participate in this system and want to sit out during this electoral process and this election. I completely understand that perspective and can respect that. And I have to say, like, in the same breath that we're willing to tell people to vote and be registered and to go participate in this election, we also have to respect the people that don't want to participate in a system that has continuously failed and continues to oppress them.
Yeah. Or
I
can't
think
either the disenfranchised population who have to stand in the ranks and watch this entire election that affects them go by as well.
exactly. With that being said, my personal perspective on this is that I will continuously fight to support the people that do want to participate in this election process and want to vote because it's either out of fear or because they want to mobilize while having somebody in power and position that can at least slow down the trajectory that this country is headed, if that makes sense. I think that yeah, there's a lot to be said, but it's very difficult to voice without necessarily like being conflicting, if that makes sense. But I will vote because I want to recognize that there are people that are disenfranchised who cannot vote. I will vote because I recognize that it's just one of the many tools in my toolbox, is in that like voting goes beyond just voting, if that makes sense. You have to do more than voting. That's not the solution to everything. It is a preference for many, and I respect that and I understand that. But just as you vote, you need to get involved in your community. You need to be involved with the municipal government and your local government and do beyond just voting, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And if you don't necessarily believe in voting, and if you don't believe that your vote will impact the upcoming election, then I think focusing that energy towards grassroots organizations, restorative justice programs, things like that, that's one way that you can still help and like restructure the system that's continuously failing us, like you said.
Yes, definitely. And I think that you need to go, people need to go beyond just looking at politicians as our saviors. You need to invest in your community. You need to invest in your local people who are doing the damn thing. And like, young people have been leading this whole movement of mutual aid, of organizing and mobilizing. And I think that that needs to be also recognized and supported. You know what I mean? And that's like the other thing too, is like the other dilemma is just the way in which young people are completely disregarded in these topics and conversations when they're leading and filling in the jobs of politicians and elected representatives who should be doing these things, right? And we saw that this summer is just the way in which a lot of young people mobilized and supported their communities when policy and politicians failed to do that and failed to step up.
Yeah. After wave of any like social uprising was happening, it was young people who were at the front lines, who were risking their money, their lives, and their livelihoods in order to like you said, bridge this gap that policy workers and politicians are voting for and are literally, they're working for us, and yet the young people are the ones who are stepping up to the plate. I completely agree with that. And it's so frustrating to see that with everything that happens, everything that affects us and other young people, we're the ones who have to like step up and do that. That makes sense.
Yes, and we're commodified in a lot of these spaces when we do come in to bring in our perspectives. It's commodified. Young people are commodified for their trauma, for their experiences, especially BIPOC young people who are dealing with a lot of different issues, right, at the same time. And so, yeah, we are easily usable and like easily discarded by a lot of people that are supposed to represent us and are not taken seriously in the conversation of change and restorative justice work.
Mm-hmm. And we're not given the resources either, the money, the housing, anything else that helps to assist us in that effort. But rather, like you said, we're given like platforms for a millisecond, and then once that's used up and come out, and it's moved on to the next thing.
Yeah. And I guess like one thing that I do appreciate about the work of Minnesota Youth Collective is that it's a year-round effort to engage with young people. It's not just during election season. It's not just during specific times and periods. It's throughout the whole year. And this gives us a better idea and chance to understand what issues young people want to address and how to better elect people into office that will serve us and the needs of young people. Because when we just focus on like a specific time frame, we completely miss out on the other efforts and all the other, conversations that are happening with young people about different issues that impact their communities.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So we've talked a lot about the work that you guys are doing and a lot of the issues that are happening and you guys are addressing at MNYC. Is there any way that we, either at the CJL or the people who are tuning in, can support or elevate the work that you guys do?
Yeah, so there's one organization that I'd like to recognize in this conversation. It's St. Paul Camps Hub, and they're doing an event this Friday where it's free food for the community, and anybody's welcome. Volunteers are needed, so if you have the time this Saturday to volunteer, please do so. I don't know if I can give you like the information through here, or if you can put it on your page. I can send you the screenshot in their Instagram, but if you want, you can follow their Instagram. It's STP, so St. Paul Camps Campus Hub.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's free food for the community, and it's this Saturday at 11 a.m. at Hamlin Park and Midway. And they're doing a lot of great work to try and support the unhoused community. And if you can, please donate. If you can, please volunteer. And if you yourself need the resources, please feel more than free to attend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll also link the MNYC Instagram page and other links that you might want to elevate, so we can get in.
Yeah, so we also have like a pledge where young people specifically can pledge to be civically engaged. I will also send you the link personally, and you can put that on your Instagram. And yeah, young people can engage through signing up in this forum and actively work towards understanding what our mission is and also how we can support you as a young person in Minnesota.
Okay, yeah. So to kind of close off the live and the conversation, what would your call to action be for the audience? You've talked a lot about like civic engagement, advocacy.
I would say that people need to, if they can, please do go out and do what's necessary for you as an individual. I personally voted because like I said, understand and recognize the many people that are disenfranchised and don't have that opportunity. Therefore, I will use voting as just one tool to continue to work of social justice, right? And if you feel that that applies to you as well, please do so. And if you don't think that that applies to you, that's also okay. But do something in your community, get involved in some way or some capacity, and yeah, continuously support one another. And if you need any support from me, reach out to me. If you want to get involved with Minnesota Youth Collective, please reach out to me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking time to have this conversation with me. And I really think, and talking about all of these really important issues that are impacting us and the people in Minnesota as well. I'm going to end off the live by plugging our upcoming event that the CJL is hosting on Friday, October 30th from 12 to 2:30 p.m. The topic is around community health, research, and trauma. And it also includes research from the CJL student coordinators, as well as the coordinator, Rai, and other amazing Black women. And so if you want to register, the registration link is in the bio for a ticket. Also tune in next week for another Spotlight conversation with our student coordinator, Soraya. Thank you again, Yasmin, for having this conversation with me.
Thank you for having me.
Hope to see you guys next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.